talking with Bev Ballor here from St. Joseph Catholic Community, and I'm happy to have a conversation with her that will talk about her journey in the Catholic faith. And we're going to start with the fact that I saw in your little bio that you went to Catholic school, and so because I never did that, I wanted to start there because I thought, well, I'm a former teacher and I learned that you're a former teacher. Well, let's go back a little and find out, how did your Catholic schooling form your faith? How do you think that all panned out?
Oh, I think it was a huge part. I mean, we started out at, I went to St. Basil's in East Detroit, Michigan, and it didn't have a kindergarten, so that was the only school I didn't have that was Catholic. But on first grade on, we started every day with Mass, and then we would go into our classrooms and we would have breakfast. And wow. So during breakfast, we would have our religion class. So we had the first 2 hours of our day was definitely religion-based. Mm-hmm. And we had nuns for most of the time. I had a lay teacher in 5th grade, and for whatever reason, all the 2nd grade teachers were lay. And I thought that was interesting, that I would have thought those would have been the nuns. But it was very, very much who I was, because that's all I knew. And I loved it. There were 50 children in each classroom, and 100 per class, and that was it.
And that went from first grade all
through 8th.
The way through 8th.
Okay. And then from 8th, I went to an all-girl Catholic high school in Detroit, Dominican High, with Dominican nuns. And if anybody's familiar with Mount DeSales and Catonsville, those are Nashville Dominicans. We had Adrian Dominicans, but they wore the same habits. They just didn't speak with that nice little southern twang.
They had the Michigan twang.
They had the Michigan twang. But I went there for 4 years.
So I'm curious, did your parents both grow up in Catholic schools?
Yes.
Or so this was sort of a natural turnover from their experience to yours?
Yes, and I am 7 and 9 years older than my brother and sister. And unfortunately, they only went to Catholic school for a year, and the school closed. So they went to public school for the rest of their schooling, but I went 12 years.
So do you feel like you had something special, going to Catholic school that they didn't get to have?
I liked it. I liked the discipline. I liked the calmness that I saw among the students, the teachers, the respect. I liked all of that, and that was why we had decided we wanted to raise our children in a Catholic school. They didn't start out that way. We had an excellent public elementary school just down the road, so they were there until 4th and 5th grades, and then we moved them to Catholic school, and they went the rest of their years in Catholic school.
So I'm curious, how much did you going to Catholic school and then also your Catholicism affect your decision to become a teacher? Because I know that's what you ended up doing, right?
I had 2 careers.
I saw the IT
yes.
part. I wanted to find out how that fit together.
I went to UMBC, and I was the first person to graduate with both a information systems and a early childhood. So I had both, and I utilized both. I have always gravitated towards the younger children. And I liked starting out teaching the children with respect. I taught in a Presbyterian nursery school, and then I taught at St. Mark's in kindergarten. Mm-hmm. And I liked that. I liked teaching the children their prayers and having them learn the respect. I enjoyed that, but it was. What was the question again?
Well, your own effect of faith
teaching,
on
yes.
teaching, and your Catholic schooling on teaching.
Yes,
that choice.
I taught in a public school for a while. I did student teaching, and I did substitute teaching, and it was fine. But I don't think it gave me what I wanted. I really enjoyed more teaching in the Catholic school system, or at least a religion-based school system. Teaching with the Presbyterians, that was fine too. I just liked having God-centric, and so that was nice. But the dual background, when I finally got both degrees, I had to decide where I was going to what I was going to do.
I mean, that's
There-
quite a combination.
It was.
Wow. I mean, really, who would have thought?
Well, if you've done a lot with engineers, sometimes they need help refereeing like children. And if you deal with children, they have a lot of wonderment and excitement, and they're not afraid to try anything. So they really are not nearly as different as you think.
Yeah, I guess so.
But when I got to where I finally had to make a choice, my children were finishing up their high school education, one at Mount DeSales and one at Mount St. Joe. And I had just finished college. I was a non-traditional student. And there were expenses. So it was really easy to switch over to Northrop Grumman, where I had been working part-time, and go full-time there. And then it was really easy for me to take the time that I had been spending at St. Mark's and switch it to religious education. So that's when I switched from full-time teaching while I was going to school, and then switched to religious education and being the second grade teacher.
Well, I was going to ask you, because you spent a long time teaching religious ed.
I did.
And, so I'm guessing that there are parents out there who either are wondering if they should bother having their kids go to religious ed, or what's the benefit, or, why do this?
I think if you don't give them that foundation, there aren't any cement blocks to add your house on.
Oh, I like that.
And I think they need to have that basis. And they need to see it at home, they need to see it at school. And even in a public school setting, you can still get that if you have teachers that are showing each other respect. And if your children, if you teach them to respect the other person's opinion and stuff, you're teaching them that basis. And then they get their Catholicism through religious ed. And I think that that's just as important. There are lots of rules in Catholicism, but it comes down to love one another as I have loved you. And you can teach that with respect. You can teach that in a public school by not calling it God-centric, but I think they're both important, and that's why I got involved with this. And if anybody says, it wasn't a choice, I didn't make the choice. God opened that door, and sometimes He pushed me through it. And to say that I did this on my own it's wrong, because I didn't. I didn't.
So it really didn't feel like a choice. It felt like just the way.
It was something I had to do.
That you had to do.
I had to do. I had to
A lot
do.
of people talk about that with careers and lifelong decisions like that. Well, as a teenager, as a young adult, those are the typical years when people waver in their faith and question. And I'm just wondering if that ever happened to you. Did you ever have a time of sorting things out? I mean, it's not a bad thing to do, but I'm just wondering where you were.
When I went away to college, it was the first time on my own, and we still got involved with a church. Thank goodness there was a church right across the big parking lot, so we were able to walk there on Sundays. So I was thrilled with that.
Lucky you.
I know. But
Every mother's prayer, let it be right across the street.
But it was when I would realize I had a choice. Sure, there were some Sundays that I'm like, I'm going to sleep in. I'd been up studying late.
Sure.
And then I found out that I missed it. So it was very easy to go back. But it also was important then when I became a parent, and my children were then in high school. I know that we were getting a good education at both Mount DeSales and Mount St. Joe, but we had a phenomenal life team program at St. Mark's. And the man who was in charge said that he had been teaching life team for years and had never come across a group of children or teens like my kids had. And it was not uncommon for there to be 20, 25, 30 kids at our house, praying the rosary, playing the litany of saints, singing spiritual songs. And then they found out that going from church Sunday to Sunday was not good enough. So they started going to church on Wednesday, going to Mass Wednesday morning. And then
That's unusual.
The girls that went to Mount DeSales took the sisters of the guys that were going to Mount St. Joe, who took the brothers of the girls going to Mount, so that they all got to school on time. And they loved that. And then it came time for the summer, and they said, well, we still need to do this. They just backed it down time. So they went to the second Mass on Wednesday morning
my
instead of the
goodness.
first. And the first time they came out, and the priest saw them on summer vacation, he took them all out to breakfast because he was like, this was just amazing. But there were 6 pews of children, of teens, and double, so that 12, of kids. And they just loved each other.
Wow.
And the day that my dad had his heart attack and I flew back to Michigan, we had 25 kids at our house saying the rosary at 7 o'clock while we were saying the Mass, or saying the rosary at 7
What a
o'clock
gift.
in
What a
the
gift.
waiting room. And the ones that couldn't make it to my home were saying the rosary at 7 o'clock with their families. And I'm thinking, that was the kind of upbringing I wanted my children to
Yeah.
have, and that's why they're both active in the church, and they married spouses who are active in the church. And we come together, and the church is a foundation for all of us. It's there, and we understand it, and we celebrate it together. And it's because of who I was that they are who they are, and now we are where we are.
Wow.
And again, it was something that we have to do. It's like breathing. You don't think about it, it just is. And that's how I feel about my
Well, I
faith.
think that's every parent's dream, every person's dream, that they could find something so compelling that they just don't feel like they have a choice, that it just draws them in there. So I was going to ask you, do you think that affected your bond as a family? But I don't need to ask you that
Yeah.
anymore since it's already very obvious. So I'm curious now, just a couple things. If you were talking to someone who didn't know anything about the Catholic faith, what would you tell them is the reason why you're Catholic? I mean, outside of the upbringing and the path you've followed, why do you continue to love your Catholicism?
Well, I definitely love God, and He's a part of my life. I love the aspect of knowing that there's something more than me. There's something more than us. And I love knowing that the family that has passed on, I will see, and I know that with all that I am, that this is a temporary position, this is a temporary goodbye, and that there's something far greater that's going to be out there.
I mean, that's a real comfort, and I don't know who wouldn't glom onto that one.
I enjoy definitely being a Christian. I enjoy being a Catholic, but I have to say, honestly, I enjoy being a Christian if I had to pick one or the other, because I want that feeling of love and like he's my brother, he's my father, he's everything, he's my heir, that's who it is. And I don't like, there are some aspects that he's I was brought up that he was the tyrannical,
Yeah.
and that's not to me who God is to me. And I know that there are some aspects of Catholicism that feel that way.
Yeah.
And to me, he's just love. I could not distance myself from one of my children, even if they did something that truly made me upset. I could not do that, and I don't see God being able to do that.
Oh,
either.
that's such a perfect way to look at that, because I think we all have different views of authority, whether it's parents or God or teachers or whatever, and authority in that vein is just not accurate. The authority there is a loving parent.
Yeah.
Not that there are no boundaries, but a loving parent.
Yeah.
That's a wonderful thing.
Oh, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, I have one story about how I get pushed through.
Yeah, I want to hear it.
I had been, I've worked in teaching religious ed for 22 years. And before I came up here, I was like, I had been doing all of this. I'd been going to school and working. And I just wanted a year off to set my house up. It was August. I thought I deserved a year. So I said, okay, God, I'm just going to take a year off, and then I'll get back involved with things. And I came to Mass, and Maria Click-Pero was the DRE, and she stood up and she was like, we're really short of catechists. And I'm like, okay, Lord, but I'm taking this year off. And the next week she says, we really need catechists, please look into your heart. And I said, okay, Lord, I really want to take a year off. But I saw that they did have an opening in my age group. So I said, if it's still there next week, I'll think about it. And when I had left St. Mark, the DRE, who had become a really close friend of mine, gave me a pin that said, "Here I am, Lord." And
that was your problem.
And she says that was because she saw that as being me. So I get here, and it's that third week, and I walk into church, and not only was that the reading, the class was still available. And I'm like, okay, Lord, I got it. I tried for 3 weeks, I got it. So I taught first grade that year, and then I went into second grade and became the, not only the second grade teacher, but the second grade coordinator.
22 years later.
Yes, I finally retired. When I retired from Northrop Grumman, I retired from teaching. I said it was time for somebody else to take over. So now I get to do it with my grandchildren.
And she looks very happy about it.
Oh, anybody that knows us knows it. They're my lives. Yeah.
What a gift you are to your family who fill the back pew, I understand.
Yes.
And what a gift to St. Joseph. So it's been wonderful talking with you. Thank you so much for your time. And we're all on a journey, and I think this journey has been fantastic.
Thank you.